Are you paying attention? Well, if you're multitasking, then I have some information for you. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the show. My name is Michael Sahno, and this is Michael Sahno Has a Podcast, brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. Go honeybadgers. And if you'll notice, if you're watching the video, if you're listening, you're not going to really notice, but if you are watching, you'll see that I am in a bright orange t-shirt. What does it say on the front? It says Gators. Go Gators. I am currently at the University of Florida in a master's program for applied physiology and kinesiology. And this shirt, which I love, was a gift from my wife when I got accepted to the program. Now, it is orange, and I am a large person who tans very easily, and I forgot to tell my wife if she was ever going to get me a Florida Gators shirt, University of Florida shirt. Please get it in royal, because otherwise I look like a basketball. Anyways, thank you, dear. Thank you for getting that for me. All right, so what are we here for today? Basically, we're here to do a little myth busting. I love myth busting. I love breaking up ideas that have taken root that might not be beneficial to our overall mental or physical health. We're going to be, just to give you guys a heads up, I'm getting ready to do an interview with one of my professors, Dr. Blaine Harrison. That's coming up real soon. I'm going to interview him, I think, next week, and we're going to go over 5 myths in physiology and kinesiology, and nutrition. And but I wanted to hit some of the psych portion of it, because remember I was talking about the total health triangle a couple episodes ago, and that's a big thing that I've developed, and I really like it. And when I put the word out, we have this thing called Yellow Dig in the program, and it's like a social media app that we can use through our through our classes. And I put the information up, I put the episode up, and people really responded well to it. So let me take a sip of coffee. Hold on real quick. This one is for my buddy, the coffee is for my buddy Peter Madeira, who has followed me through all of my podcasting journeys. So there you go, Peter, that's for you. All right, so in order to address the myth, and I did say the myth of multitasking, so we have a lot of people out there who consider themselves good multitaskers. They consider themselves able to attend meaning give attention to, numerous different things, tasks, jobs, children, all at once. And it's been proven through numerous studies, which I'm going to go over in this episode, that the concept of multitasking is actually, it doesn't exist. And if it does exist, there has to be some neuro component, some brain component, meaning you're outside the scope of normal brain operation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it in the normative sense. And when I say normative, I mean proportionally, statistically. So normative, you can only attend to, I think it's 2, maybe 3 things at a time. I know that there were auditory tests, hearing tests that were done, and they found, I think it was 5 to 7, and I'm going to have to look this up, 5 to 7 that you can auditorily observe, but only 2 to 3 that you could really have recall, meaning you could remember it. So to start off with, I have a ton of notes. And I'm going to have a ton of notes because a lot of this is really dense information. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the information and I'm kind of dissecting it, ripping it apart into little smaller chunks so that you guys can manageably absorb this information and use this information. And then when someone comes to you and says, oh, I'm multitasking, like my child or my wife says, oh, I'm multitasking, you can be that jerk in the room who says, actually, there's no such thing as multitasking. So I'm generating those people. I am so sorry for all the people who have to live with us. But it's a good thing because I am at the end of this going to give you tips on how to be more attentive, more focused, and therefore, hopefully, more productive. So, first and foremost, before we get into multitasking, we have to address what multitasking purports to be, and that's attention to numerous different things. So we have to look at what attention is. So I'm going to give you a couple of definitions, and these are the Oxford Dictionary definitions, and they're the current ones. And it is notice taken of someone or something in the environment. So you're seeing something in the environment, or the regarding of someone or something as interesting or important in the environment. So that interesting part is important because when we're thinking about distractors, we're thinking about things that distract us from what we're doing. Multitasking in its purest sense assumes that you are able to do numerous different things without being distracted. And your attention, as I just said in the definition, the Oxford definition, your attention can be drawn to something. So the other one is the action of dealing with or taking special care of someone or something. So you're giving attention to someone. But again, that falls back into the first, which is attention. You are attending to them. The word attendance means that they are paying attention to you. They are giving you the action of attending. So that's the normal. Hold on, another sip. Sorry about that. Another sip of coffee. My voice is a little scratchy. So that's the normal Webster's Dictionary or Oxford Dictionary definition. But the APA, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychological Association. I do this all the time. So I did an episode before where I was talking about the ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutritionists. Got it right. I went back and looked, and I'm always screwing up what these acronyms mean. I even do it on quizzes, so it's normal. So if I get it wrong, please be just a little forgiving. So the APA, in their Dictionary of Psychology, calls attention a state in which cognitive resources, your brain, the thing, your ability to reason, think, and function in your mind. So a state in which cognitive resources are focused on certain aspects of the environment, that's where you are, rather than on others, and the central nervous system is in a state of readiness to respond to stimuli. That means you're going to, basically all that means is that you are focusing on something and your brain is ready to absorb the information from it. So, when your parents say, are you paying attention to me? And you're really not. You are thinking of Star Wars, or you are thinking of fields and princesses, or you're thinking of going to the moon. No, you're not. You are focused on something inside your cognitive, your brain's environment, your imagination, versus something in your real environment. And that's also something that happens as we're adults, daydreaming. So that's another thing. So attention can be internal and external, meaning it can be inside your head. It can also be outside in your environment. Now, with that in mind, we all know how difficult it can be to focus on things sometimes. And we are always looking for some supplemental thing to give us focus. And I personally don't believe that that is the cure-all and the way to do it. It is my belief. It is my opinion. And this is all Michael Sahno has a podcast is my opinion. With some data scattered in to make my opinion sound relevant. That's honesty. That's exactly what it is. So my opinion is, attention is a trained behavior. Okay. So let's say we're an imaginative kid and we develop this really dynamic world inside our head. Like say you're George Lucas, back to Star Wars, and you develop this enormous universe inside your head. You're going to reside in that universe cognitively in your brain. You're going to reside in that universe for a long time. And because of that, you're going to, I believe, develop a pattern of internal attentional focus. Okay. And I think by not exercising your external cognitive focus, your focus on the environment, it makes it difficult to pay attention. So I'm curious if there are some, and I'm just curious, and again, I could be wrong. I'm curious if there are developmental strategies for people who really have focus issues and if they can be trained to focus better. I know that I had to do something like that when I was in the military because when I was younger, I had a really vibrant fantasy in my head about, Star Wars came out, Battlestar Galactica came out, all these really awesome science fiction things. And it was really enjoyable to be there rather than in my childhood at times. I didn't have a bad childhood. I just, sometimes it was nicer to be there. And I wonder if I developed that over time, and the military sort of developed it out of me. I'm still creative. I'm still internally, cognitively focused at times, but I know when to turn it on and when to turn it off, I hope. So we're here to talk about multitasking, not my my childhood. Let me have another sip of coffee. Hold on one sec. All right, so I am going to give you a definition of what multitasking actually is. And there is a paper that was called Definition, Dual Tasking and Multitasking. And in it, it said multitasking refers to the ability to coordinate the completion of several tasks to achieve an overall goal. So that's from this paper. Now, the APA also has a definition in the Dictionary of Psychology for the device, the tool, the thing that occurs when you are supposedly multitasking, and that is task switching. Now, according to the APA Dictionary of Psychology, task switching is a procedure in which the participant switches between two or more tasks. So you're doing one thing, and you switch to another thing. Typically, it is according to a regular schedule in experimental situations. And the usual finding is that responses are slower when the task switches than when the same task is merely repeated. So what the APA is saying, what these psychologists are saying, is that task switching, that shift in focus from one thing to another, I can mow the lawn and trim the hedges at the same time. It's saying that psychologists literally have sat there with stopwatches and said, okay, mow the lawn, now switch over to doing the bushes. Okay, now switch back to mowing the lawn. And then they've run another experiment that said, okay, just mow the lawn. Okay, now stop that. Now go over and trim the hedges. And they found that when you do one, stop, do the other, stop, go back to doing the one, stop, go back to doing the other, that it takes more time than if you just stopped, did the lawn, finished it, then switched over, did the hedges, finished that. So that is basically where the science gets in to kind of put the kibosh on multitasking and to show that it is really nothing more than a myth. And in a study that was done in 2009 called Mini Multitaskers, where they focused their attention on kids to see what the multitasking, what their multitasking capabilities was. They noticed they said this: like their adult counterparts, young people often believe multitasking boosts efficiency, but there's no such boost, says psychologist David E. Meyer, who is the director of Brain, Cognition, and Action Lab at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. People who multitask actually take longer to get things done, he says. Now, in research published in 2001 in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, Meyer and colleagues, they found that people lost time. They lost time switching from one task to another. They didn't, it wasn't like they went into a time warp. It just means they lost time in the sense that it took longer to complete the tasks. The amount of time they lost increased significantly as the tasks became more complex or unfamiliar. So let's say you're trying to do something new. I want to train you on this, but also make sure you get all your regular work done, okay? You're going to slow down even more on your regular tasks, which are rote, which are normal things that you do every day and you can do without even thinking. What they're saying is that the normal stuff you do will even slow down. Now, as a result, the efficiency of getting the task done is much less than if you concentrated on one task from start to finish, says Meyer. So basically, it's you're wasting your time. If you're doing more than one thing at a time, if you're studying for 2 classes at once, you're wasting your time. If you are doing the laundry and cleaning the house, you're wasting your time. Actually, that one's kind of not accurate because what you're doing is splitting tasks, and I think that's different. Multitasking is trying to accomplish 2 things: answering emails, responding to different tasks that are required of you all at the same time. There are some things that you can do where you are splitting tasks, and I'll admit that. But as a whole, multitasking is, as is evidenced, doesn't work. And splitting tasks, that's interesting. Actually, now I got to think about that. Because I'm biased on the side of myself, and I'm saying, well, I can do laundry and clean the house. Maybe I can't. Maybe if I should leave laundry just to one day. But there's a time there's the element of you put stuff in the laundry and you leave it and you don't have to come back to it that I think is more than it takes it outside the multitasking realm. So I just fouled myself up on my own podcast. It's all right. Multitasking, not a good idea. So multitasking also has additional risks, and some of them are health risks, which I actually wasn't aware of. And you're going to find out exactly what multitasking is as I read a bunch of these risks off, because I didn't do a very good job of explaining what a multitask environment is like. Basically what it is it's answering emails while you're in a class, texting to keep, like my wife does this in her meetings. She will answer emails or texts when she's in a meeting rather than pay full attention to what's going on in the meeting, because there are so many. Oftentimes our lives have so many moving parts. I'm trying to think what else. Of course, texting while driving. I can do that. That's technically multitasking. And we all know that it's illegal. So I'm going to give you, according to Guy Winch, who is a psychologist and an author, he wrote an article in Psychology Today, and he came up with 10 multitasking risks that are all science-based. There's evidence that were studies that were done. So the first one is multitasking is associated with harm, physical, actual harm to our brains. And there was a Japanese study from 2014 that used neuroimaging analysis, and they found that people who were frequent media multitaskers, because we always think we can do that, had reductions in their brain's gray matter. That's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying. Specifically in areas related to cognitive control and the regulation of motivation and emotion. So that means basically we are dumbing ourselves down by multitasking. I'm interested to see if there are any follow-on studies to this, but I mean, it's literally mind-blowing that we are getting less. We're reducing our brain matter, our gray matter, by multitasking. Number 2 is multitasking can lead to memory problems. This goes back to what they were saying in 1. Now, in 2016, a Stanford University study that used questionnaires and performed four separate cognitive tasks found that chronic media multitaskers exhibited weakness in both their working memory. So, where did I put my coffee? That kind of stuff. Which is the ability to store relevant information while working on a task. So, you know that, where did I leave my hammer? Where did I leave my screwdriver? That is related to multitasking. And their long-term memory, the ability to store and recall memories from a long time ago. So multitasking, I don't think we have the resources cognitively. As smart as we think we are, we don't have the resources, the actual physical brain cells to do all of these things at the same time. And we kind of overload our brains, so to speak. Multitasking can lead to increased distractibility. Remember, I was talking about that in the beginning, how things in your environment can distract you. You're going to pay attention to things that pop up into your eyesight or that you hear. What was that? You know what I mean? Now, researchers in Finland in 2016 studied a group of people who were multitasking at home over a 7-day period and found that the more these people multitask, the more likely they were to exhibit what is known as behavioral distractibility. Now, they think that by responding to so many distractions, a person loses their ability to tell the difference between important and unimportant interruptions. And that's because they're attending to too many things at once, and their ability to differentiate between what's important and what's not becomes limited, becomes hindered, they become unable to tell the difference between, should I stop because this is important, or should I stay focused and continue doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Number 4 is multitasking can make us walk into traffic. Now, researchers from NYU in 2008, they compiled information from 2011. Oh, no, this is wrong. I'm reading it wrong. So researchers compiled information between 2008 and 2011 and on pedestrians in New York City, and they found that of these individuals who were hit by a car, they discovered that 20% of them reported being distracted by a mobile device when they were struck. And this is basically telling you, don't text and walk around the city. Don't text and do things where you should be paying attention. Number 5, multitasking hurts your grades and the grades of others around you. Now, a Canadian study of multitasking in the classroom from 2013, they found that students who multitask on their computers during a lecture, I was talking about this, they scored lower on their exams, but their classmates did as well if they were in direct view of them, and they did so by the same margin, meaning they failed or did as poorly as the people who were multitasking while they were in class. So it's why you don't like people texting in the movie theater, texting in meetings, or any of that stuff, because it distracts you from focusing on what you perceive as an important thing to be doing. Another sip of coffee. Hold on one sec. Number 6, multitasking can lead to falling and breaking bones. So this was a Canadian study. Oh, no, this was a Swedish study in 2016, and they found that they studied the elderly men and women, and interestingly, they found that there was a prevalence there were more elderly women who had their gait affected, meaning they were walking in a way that would make it easier for them to trip and fall. I wonder why the men weren't as affected. That's interesting. But these women are at risk of injuring themselves if they're not focusing on traveling through space. So they've come to the conclusion that walking and texting are dangerous, just like the one prior to it did. Now, multitasking, they found, can harm your relationship. That's number 7. And a 2016 study by Brigham Young University asserts that smartphones create such an immediate threat of multitasking and distractibility that they are associated with relationship problems. They coined the term technoference, so interference through technological devices, and it's causing their partners to experience significant reduced relationship satisfaction. Now, I can tell you that is true. So if I put something on TV and we're watching it and I see my wife, she is texting, I will say something because it annoys me. It's the time we're spending together. Oh, I'm just texting with my sister. Well, then I will pause it and we'll wait, and she'll say, I'm sorry, and we're good about it. But it is a real thing. It absolutely is a real thing. Now, number 8, multitasking increases chronic stress. Now, there was a 2014 study of college students at the University of California, Irvine, And this study basically said that individuals who studied on their computers and also interacted on social media, went to websites and all of this stuff, all while they were trying to get their stuff done for school, experienced increased levels of stress. And I just, it said it could also lead to chronic stress. So something to watch out for. If you're studying, make sure you stick to studying. But I'm going to give you a tip on that at the end. So number 9, multitasking increases depression and social anxiety. In 2012, researchers from Michigan State University examined the link between multitasking media use and emotional health. And interestingly, they found no relationship between media use and negative outcomes in the study. What they did find was that the more participants multitasked, the more likely they were to report symptoms of depression and social anxiety. So this is an example of a study that needs more follow-on, needs more studying after. There needs to be another study after this, because it's one of those studies where they find something, they're looking for one thing, and they turn around and they find something else. And since the study is not necessarily done on depression and social anxiety, they can't come out and say it because it's related. They weren't actually doing the study on that, but they found that their participants who were multitasking were showing these symptoms. So something to look out for. Multitasking, depression, stress, of course. Like, in retrospect, it's one of those things where you want to say of course, but you have no evidence for it. And now it's looking like they're moving in that direction to find the evidence. Now, multitasking makes you less productive and less efficient. Now, in 2012, researchers from Middle Tennessee State University examined if multitasking makes us more productive and efficient. And the results, while not overly alarming, did still demonstrate the exact opposite of what most multitaskers believe. They revealed that multitasking actually made participants less efficient and productive. So I've just finished telling you all of these different risks. Your brain could, your gray matter shrinks, anxiety, you don't actually produce as much. So you're multitasking to try to produce more and you actually don't. A ton of horrible Armageddon scenarios. So how do you fix this? Well, persistent cognitive refocusing. That sounds like a bunch of psychobabble, right? I know. Basically, it's gonna tick some people off. Just do it, okay? Just do it. Basically, persistent means doing it over and over and over again until you get it done. Cognitive means brain. Refocusing means bringing yourself back into focus. So basically what you do is you just refocus, and you consistently refocus. Now, a psychologist, Nando Pelusi, in Psychology Today, he had this to say. Now, the second goal is to get better at refocusing after you've experienced a distraction. So all of us experience distractions. For example, if I've become distracted, but I refuse to let it get me angry or upset, because a lot of times when we get unfocused, we're like, oh God, I'm trying to do this. I don't know how many times my father and mother said that, or my wife or my son have said that to me. I can then practice returning to the task through persistent refocusing. You can remind yourself, it's too bad that I get so easily distracted, but I can still refocus. By allotting a 5-minute block of attention, you can accomplish more than you think. So basically what Dr. Pelusi is saying is give yourself 5 minutes. Give yourself a 5-minute block where nothing's going to distract me. People around you may go, oh, gosh, that's so rude. No, I'm in my 5 minutes. You establish that boundary. Practice focusing in 5-minute blocks, and eventually you will reach a point where it gets easier to stay focused on task and to refocus without too much hassle. You may never like getting distracted, but you can still get much better at refocusing. Push yourself to work for a solid 5 minutes. Sometimes the material takes over, and that's where you get in a groove, and you're like, oh, I'm done. And if you're unable to do this, start over again. Anytime you get distracted, just say, nope, another 5 minutes. And treat it like it's not a big deal. That's important. Very important. Because you can do this. You just do it. I know it sounds simple. I know sometimes it's not easy, but it is simple. And you can do it. Multitasking, I'm sorry, doesn't work. But persistent cognitive refocusing does work. But it takes work as well. So I'm going to give you a couple of strategies. These are his. And one of mine at the end. So recognize that external stimuli, distractions, don't need to distract you endlessly. Okay? Give yourself a 5-minute block of time to focus. Ask yourself questions about the material. What is the task I want to tackle in this block of 5 minutes? So remain focused for 5 minutes, but have a focus in those 5 minutes. A goal, so to speak. Distract yourself from distractions by taking deep breaths. So if you hear someone working on the road outside, take a deep breath. And then the 5-minute timer starts again. Put up a Post-it note in your work area to remind yourself to focus for 5 minutes. That way you're constantly reminded, 5-minute window. It's my 5-minute window to focus. Put a sign in your cubicle or on the outside of your office for others, do not disturb. Why? Because you're taking 5 minutes to focus on what you need to do. In a pinch, wear noise-canceling headphones. How many people would not come and disturb you if you had headphones on? I found a ton of white noise or rain in the forest videos on YouTube that work wonders at helping you stay within that 5-minute window. I'll put a couple of them up in the comments or in the description. And this one is mine. This recommendation is mine. And it is take breaks after 20 to 30 minutes. Because you're going to build up these 5-minute blocks. I'm going to read for 5 minutes. I'm going to work for 5 minutes. Eventually, these 5-minute blocks, you're going to get so good at it that you're going to be able to do it for an hour, half an hour, 2 hours. But it is important to, again, cognitively refocus and recycle. So every 20 to 30 minutes, recharge your batteries, take a break, go outside, smell the air. Check your phone, but then put it away. And then go back into that 5-minute bubble. All right. All right, that's it. That's all I've got for you. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun looking into this stuff. I learned a ton, and I hope you learned a lot too. And I hope I helped you. All right. Again, as I said in the beginning, this is brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. So head on over to www.seaandlandfitness and pick up your Honey Badger gear. We got hats, we've got shirts, swim caps, because I swim, and all kinds of stuff. All right, go Gators. Thanks a lot. See you soon.